Hello, welcome back to Faces of Truth, where we attempt to help America think for themselves again. My name's Alexander McCauley. I'll be your host for the next few minutes. Recently, we've experienced two very interesting events. The COVID-19 hostage crisis perpetrated by the Democrats and Communist Chinese against the conservative element of the world to shut them down permanently. Interestingly enough, we find ourselves in the middle of at the beginning of what they call the second wave. Okay, now this coincides with another very interesting event called the death of George Floyd, which has ended up with the eruption of riots in almost every major city in the United States and the world. I don't quite think it's got, it's been the world. Okay, so the first half of the hostage crisis that started in March, toward the 2.5 month point, our police officers were siding with the people. The politicians were robbing us blind, shutting us down because of a flu virus. Okay, so the tests were testing for antibodies. The antibodies are exactly the same as the antibodies for the average flu. Oh boy. Well, as we can see from a certain clip that was being broadcast that particular period of time, there was a gym that was about to open up, it wanted to open back up, and its customers wanted it to open back up. Well, the governor was saying, no, can't do it, can't open back up. You're still a threat to people's lives. Okay, so how many people committed suicide because they couldn't get enough money to pay for their expenses, their necessary expenses? A lot. More than have ever been killed by any flu. Okay, so how many people overseas starved to death because everything was shut down? A lot more than have died from any flu. Okay, so the police see this going on, and they decide to side with the people. And this is their responsibility, to side with the people in the face of injustice. A police officer stands up at the door of this gym and says, according to the guidelines of the health department, this establishment is required to remain shut down, but that being said, be safe and have a good day. Basically, giving the health department the finger. Okay, so let's go ahead and go on about a month and a half. George Floyd is killed by a police officer, or an alleged police officer. The police officer has beefs with George Floyd. According to their employer at a nightclub where they were both working security. And oh boy, he ends up spending a counterfeit 20 at a convenience store that night, hopped up on fentanyl and, what is it? Methamphetamine. This is George Floyd I'm talking about. His buddy from the nightclub ends up being called in to arrest him for having spent a counterfeit 20. He probably didn't know that it was counterfeit, but, you know, it happened. His buddy, in air quotes, ends up kneeling on his neck and allegedly strangling him to death, but the coroner report afterwards confirms that he died from a heart attack induced by his drug problem. Okay, so we have Democrats who are upset by the police and how the police took sides with the people, which they were supposed to do. They were supposed to protect the people from injustice, unjust political movements. And that was exactly what COVID-19 shutdown, quarantine, hostage crisis was an injustice to you and me, both black and white, by Democrats and rhino Republicans. Anyone spouting the, oh, it's a virus that's worse than the average flu or pneumonia, they are executing an injustice against you and me. We are supposed to have the right to liberty. We are supposed to have the right to pursuit of happiness or acquisition of property, the freedom to acquire. If they shut us down, we are neither at liberty to do anything or free to acquire. The entire reason for the shutdown was to make us reliant on the government. The government was trying to make itself a legitimate benefactor, which it's not supposed to be. We're supposed to be the producers. We're supposed to be the creators. We're supposed to be the benefactors. We are supposed to, okay, I'm getting off on a rant. George Floyd dies while in a rather inconvenient position with a police officer he worked with. Then the media goes all out and totally butchers police departments across the United States. The Democrat representatives and politicians around the United States start threatening defunding of the police departments. Oh boy, I think I see where this is going. Defunding the police department will increase crime. When there is nothing to there are no people hired to protect. There is no protection except on the local level inside the local home. Get your guns, by the way, people. When all power reverts to the people, you find the climbing. Well, I'm not going to say that because that's a good thing. All power reverting to the people because of Democrats lousy schemes to acquire more power over our public servants is a good thing. I'm not saying anything against that. However, if one person is flooded by a bunch of criminals, even if they've got an AR-15 or a military grade weapon, which we are supposed to be able to bear, according to the Second Amendment, we should be training and bearing every single type of military or defensive and offensive technology that the military has access to. We can definitely be out overpowered. This is the way that the left wants us to be. They want us helpless so that they can demolish those who want their liberty, and all that is left are those that will be puppets. So, we have the threat of the defunding of the police, who were siding with the population against the injustice being perpetrated by the Democrats and Rhino Republicans, aka the COVID-19 hostage crisis. I cannot emphasize anymore the hostage crisis. We find Fauci once again pumping up the rhetoric that we are about to enter into a second wave. Once you've contracted a virus, overcome a virus, and successfully recovered, you now have an immunity to the virus. Unless, of course, the virus has been edited by a biological lab to be able to overcome immunity. Evidently, it had that in China. There were 2 million people either killed or who died from the virus. There was a big fat lead inoculation that was prescribed by the military personnel in China for anyone suspected of having the virus. 2 million cell phone services went, or 2 million cell phones went dead after China went live again. Okay, so we find out that China used it as an excuse to kill off its population. Then they spread it to the United States so that the Democrats and Rhino Republicans had an excuse for shutting us down while they planned to take the country back over and start the exercise of subjugation again. Big betrayal by the Democrats and Rhinos. It's still up for debate whether President Trump affiliates with the Democrats and Rhinos. I personally love the guy. I didn't in 2016 because I was of the opinion he could talk a good con. But he does seem to be a man of his word. Now, this was also engaged, this whole crisis, hostage crisis, was perpetrated to make him look very bad. It isn't doing that. It's making the Democrats and Rhino Republicans look bad. Now, so they have to make the police officers look bad so they can get them out of their way and replace them with something that has absolutely no accountability to the people. In other words, the tracers, which are about to be instituted. It's a police department that has no accountability to you or me. has absolutely no knowledge of constitutional government, and will do whatever they are told by the Democrats and Rhino Republicans and their controllers at higher levels. This is the perfect storm. They don't need a majority vote in order to subjugate the majority of the people who want their liberty. All they have to do is say, okay, law enforcement is down. We replace it with something loyal to us. All right, you give anyone money for doing exactly what you tell them to do, they're going to do exactly what you tell them to do. I had experience with it. There was a lady in, I think she was in health insurance or Medicare or something. She had us over for Christmas, and she did her best to try and sell us on going into a policy with her company. She's getting money to sell the product, and so she's passionate about pushing people into the product. At this time, we were also going through the Obamacare thing. I am one of those people that believes that people should be left free to own their own body and take care of it the way they want. Alright, so that didn't work on us. We left. So, my family kept on saying no to health insurance. This past year, I had a few customers that required me to get workers' compensation on myself. That's fine. I did it. Now I'm paying $599 a year to keep up, every quarter to keep up a policy that I will never use because I will never get a health problem because I like to take care of myself. I will not fall off a ladder, etc. So, here I am pushed into workers' comp. My research budget into renewable energy is cut quite a bit. So, now, we have a problem. People like me are rebelling against universal health care. So, roll out COVID-19 hostage crisis because this new virus comes out that was genetically engineered inside of a North Carolina lab and continued research in China where it was released to quell revolts against tyranny and the conservative uprising in the United States, we get a shutdown. The police end up fighting the shutdown with the citizen who is being robbed blind by the government because of the shutdown. What? You going to kill Granny? You're going to kill black people by spreading it to black people because black people are they die a lot quicker with COVID-19 than white people for some reason. Oh yes, it's because of the melanin in their skin. They have a lot less of an ability to produce vitamin D. Okay, now that we've established that, high dosage vitamin D treatments for my black brothers. Perfect. Hydroxychloroquine with zinc. Perfect remedy. But both high dosage vitamin C infusions all of these methods, which have been proven effective against viral infections in the past, are considered illegal according to CDC guidelines because they don't know how it will react with the virus. We know exactly how it reacts with the virus. It's highly corrosive to viruses. It breaks them down before they can even interact with the cell. The hydroxychloroquine with zinc interacts inside the cell to break down all proteins generated by the viruses. So we've got on every level a fortification against this virus. And the Democrats and Rhino Republicans are working hard against these remedies because they want to continue the hostage crisis indefinitely. They want us weak. The reason for the mask, to weaken our immune system. Dr. Rashid Buttar actually compares masks, trying to prevent the spread of COVID-19 with a mask, to trying to stop a wave of mice with a split rail fence. It doesn't work. Also, the reason for 6-foot social distancing is because your phone can't be discerned from any other cellular phone signal at less than 5 feet. So in order to keep track of who is in an area, they need you to be social distanced in case someone that was in that area tested positive. Oh, 1 minute. They test positive but are not manifesting symptoms, there is no way to transfer it. Unless, of course, they spit on someone and that person just so happens to lick the spit off. If someone spits on you, wash it. That's all there is to it. No social distancing or masks needed. As a result of the masks, we get less oxygen. We get under OSHA minimum for, we get 17 to 18% oxygen saturation, which OSHA minimum is 19.5%. We all are fainting at our jobs because our jobs are requiring this crap. And then, George Floyd. I can't breathe. Well, I can't breathe in a mask, but no one's protesting mask wearing. And it takes about as long to fall unconscious with a mask on as it did for George Floyd to die from having an officer's knee on his neck, or dying from a heart attack, being hopped up on methamphetamines and fentanyl. He had enough fentanyl in his system to kill 3 people, evidently. Then, the heroes in the United States, the police officers, who were working with us, the people, we the people, to overcome this hostage crisis, come under attack by the liberals and the Rhino Republicans. We are under attack, my fellow Americans. They don't want us, these people do not want us to be free. They don't want us to become great again. They don't want us to progress as a nation in our nation. They want us spread out around the world, acting as the police. They want us divided. We find that these people participating in the riots are defacing monuments that are either of people who were attempting to minimize casualties during the Civil War, freeing slaves, and black people who had achieved greatness. All of these statues are being defaced. Notable abolitionists, white abolitionists from Great Britain, their statues are being defaced. Anti-fascist politicians like Winston Churchill, their statues are being defaced. Everything that used to be great and symbols of liberty are being defaced because liberty is becoming unfashionable. Slavery is once again becoming fashionable, except this time it's not slavery of the blacks. It's all-purpose, equal opportunity slavery. If this operation, this hostage crisis / terrorist invasion of the United States and other countries continues, we will all be reduced to slaves of the elites that control our politicians and these mobs. I am sorry. I apologize if this offends you. It's the truth. It needs to get out there. If you enjoyed this presentation, which is going on for a while, please like, subscribe, and drop your comments whether you liked it or not. Just make sure that you share it and make sure that you maintain appropriate vocabulary, because I'm trying to make this as accessible to all ages as possible, even though I am not tailoring it specifically towards children. People need to get educated. The reason for all this crap that's going on right now is people are not educated. I believe in educating oneself. Go out and get yourself a Constitution and a Declaration of Independence. You'll find that they are not racist documents. In the colonial era, there were both white and black slaves in the United States. The reason that the Constitution has the 1/3 or 2/4 of a human or whatever it is clause is because they did not want those slaves permanently held as slaves. If they had a full vote, their masters could use that full vote to vote down the abolitionists. Thank you for watching once again. This is Alexander McCauley with The Faces of Truth, where we are attempting to help America think for themselves again. See you next week. Like, subscribe, share, and comment. Thank you. See you next week.